All right, welcome to All Clemson Tigers Baseball Show, which is part of the Clemson Maven multimedia platform covering all things Clemson sports. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We would greatly appreciate that. You can leave a comment as well, and we will definitely respond back to you. If you are listening to us today, please subscribe and download us as well. I'm Will Vandervort. That's Jason Priester, the other guy you see in the screen, as we kind of get you set for the week that's going to be here for Clemson baseball, but also review the week that was. And Jason, what a great week I should say, it was for the Tigers. They had last week off because of exams, but then in the weekend they played Louisville and they got a sweep over the Louisville Cardinals.
Yeah, they just keep doing what they need to do to continue this postseason push. Like we talked about last week, if they could take 2 out of 3 or maybe even sweep, they would start being in that discussion to host. They take all 3 games. Here we are. They're up to number 16 in the D1 baseball poll, still hanging tight in the top 15 of the RPI. I think they are absolutely in the discussion now.
I think they are too, and they got opportunities coming up here really this week. To be honest, look, ACC series is important because it's your conference and you got to win it. But, man, is that Wednesday game this week in Conway as big as – we thought the Clemson-South Carolina series was a big one, and it is. Don't get us wrong. But this game with Coastal Carolina, in the sense of what Clemson wants to do, which is host a regional, this is a big one because you're going up against the number – what I'm trying to help me out here. They're number 9 in the D1 poll. Is that right?
They're 11 in RPI.
And then they're, 11th in the RPI, you said? So they are right there. So if Clemson goes on the road and wins, would be a huge win for perspective. When the committee looks at teams hosting, this will be big for Clemson to get another top 15 RPI victory on the road, which, by the way, they're 10-5 on the road this year, which is amazing. It would be huge. So this game Wednesday night, you could say maybe it's a little bit bigger than the series against Virginia Tech, though don't get me wrong, the series against Virginia Tech is huge as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think this ball game's huge, and we don't say that very often about midweek games. And not only if Clemson can pull this one off, not only would it give them another, top win over a top RPI team, but that would make 2 wins over Coastal. Because remember, they ruled DeShant's earlier in the season when Coastal came up to Clemson. I don't know, 5-6 weeks ago. It's been a little bit now, but that could end up being a big win on the resume when we get to the end of the road here.
Yeah, it's going to be a big game for the Tigers. Don't know yet who the Tigers are going to throw. We do have our suspicion, and I think we're thinking maybe they go with Jackson Lindley. What do you think? Do you think they go out there and throw Jackson? Is he going to be the guy? They haven't used him much here in the last couple weeks. JP, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I tend to lean towards thinking it's going to be Lindley. Like you say, we haven't seen him very much in the last few weeks. He made the last midweek start. Didn't go very well, but Jackson, he's been more up than he's been down this season. They had to use him in that closer's role for a while they waited on Ryan Ammons to get hurt. And he was mostly serviceable out of that bullpen, absolutely not perfect by any stretch. And he has shown in the past that he is able to go out there and give you some quality innings. He's started games before, so he can go. He's not a guy that can just go an inning or 2 out of the bullpen. He can give you some, quality innings, like I said. But I tend to lean towards thinking it's going to be Lindley. Yeah.
All right, so let's look back at this series against Louisville before we move any further ahead and talk about Coastal Carolina and also the Virginia Tech series. The Tigers, as we said, swept the Cardinals. Just the second time Clemson has swept Louisville in a series. Only the 5th time since Louisville joined the ACC had they been swept in a 3-game series. So, and the Tigers are the only team to do it twice. So Clemson swept them back in 2021 as well. Clemson has won 9 of the last 10 matchups at Doug Kingsmore Stadium against Louisville. I think it's safe to say Clemson has their number. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they kind of do. We were talking about this yesterday. Like you just said, Clemson is the only ACC team to sweep Louisville twice since they joined the conference. And Louisville, like you just said, they haven't been swept very often since they joined, especially in the last several, a few years, Clemson's absolutely had their number. And I know Louisville's kind of been struggling lately, but that is a program known to be that's a very good program under that coaching staff there, under McConnell there. That has been a well-established program for a long time now, and it's never easy to go out there and beat those guys, and to do it 3 straight times in a weekend. I think that kind of speaks volumes.
Absolutely. Clemson, of course, won game 1 of the series 6-3 on Friday night. That was a game in which I think Ethan Darton probably had his best start of the season, in my opinion. He went 6 innings, gave up 3 runs on 3 hits, struck out 6, walked 2. I thought a pretty solid inning. Cam Camarello led the Tigers at the plate, 4 hits and 5 at-bats. You also got 2 hits from Cooper Ingle. And Will Taylor, who's really coming on even more so than he was early this season, 3 for 4 with an RBI. And then, of course, Billy Amick. Amick continues to do his stuff, man. A bomb. Had 3 RBIs in that game, including a 2-run home run. As the Clemson got the win 6-3. I thought game 1 was a statement game, right, for the series. I think it showed Clemson's going to come out. They got a good pitching performance from their starter. And then, though they didn't do well getting hits and runners in scoring position, it didn't really all weekend. I think they went 6 for 36 for the weekend. Got to get better there. However, they found ways to scratch runs over, whether it be, with wild pitches that Louisville gave them or something. They figured a way to get those runs across somehow. And I thought Friday night's win kind of set the tone for how the weekend was going to go.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was Ethan Darden's best start of the season, of his career. He's just a freshman. And, yeah, Clemson definitely struggled to come up with the big hits with runners on base this weekend, something that they have been pretty good at over this winning streak. They've been coming up with the clutch hits when they needed them. Really wasn't able to do that this weekend, but found other ways to get it done. Like you said, they scored some runs on some passed balls. Just kind of manufacturing some runs, stole some bases, sacked flies. We even saw Caden Grice lay down a bunt. Just some things that that good baseball teams do to win baseball games when you're not coming up with those clutch hits. And I think that says a lot about where this Clemson team is right now. They can beat you in different ways.
And it continued on Saturday. They got a great pitching performance from Austin Gordon, his best start of his career, without a doubt. 6 innings, again, another 6-inning performance for the Clemson starter. Gave up 1 hit, no runs, struck out 5 and walked only 1. I mean, that's as efficient as you can be. I think he threw 98 pitches, if I'm not mistaken. Very efficient in the way he played in that game and pitched for the Tigers. Again, Canarello led Clemson at the plate 2 for 5. You had several guys with 1 hit. And then, of course, Riley Bertram, his best game, I thought, in a long time, went 3 for 4, scored a run. I thought his ability to get on base helped Clemson, especially in that decisive 7th inning again, where they load the bases and they don't get hits, but they get on base and they put pressure on the pitching. And they got hit by pitch, if I'm mistaken, and then walked. And that was the difference. I think Will Taylor drew the walk, and then it was Caden Grice got hit by pitch, got 2 runs in, and then they get a sac fly from Amick. And all of a sudden it went from 1-1 to 4-1, and that's all Clemson needed to hang on and get a 4-3 victory on Saturday against Louisville. And against a Louisville pitcher, by the way, that is very good, came into the game not giving up much. They ran him off by the 4th inning because they were getting hits, 5 hits. He gave up 1 run earned. Didn't have his best stuff. I think he didn't suffer the loss because he's 7-0 still on the season. But Clemson, I thought, against one of the better pitchers in the ACC, showed they can really get after a guy, and they did that, I thought.
Yeah, that Louisville pitcher Saturday, he's one of the better ones in the league, no doubt. He's not been beaten this year. He didn't take a decision in that game, but he's already got 1 complete belt under his, he's got 1 complete game under his belt this year. ERA well under 3, and Clemson chased him before the fifth inning, if I'm remembering right. So yeah, they are finding ways to score runs, and not always in conventional fashion. We saw a lot of pass balls. We saw some craziness in that second game for sure.
The way they scored runs in this series, it just boggled my mind. And each of these three games, it's like they did not score runs the conventional way you would think they would. I mean, like you mentioned, they had pass balls. There was bunt singles. I mean, how many bunts did they lay down this weekend? They had like 3 or 4 perfect bunts and bunt sacrifices, and they played small ball really well against a Louisville team that was, I thought, played very good on defense, because when Louisville would say, okay, we're going to play up, and if Clemson had a runner on third, they know Clemson likes to be aggressive, so they would play up and gamble. It worked out every time for them. It was amazing. Clemson got thrown out 3 times at the plate during this series, and then I think got thrown out 3 times on third base. So Clemson was aggressive on the pads. Louisville was even better defensively, but Clemson still found ways to get runs across.
Yeah, they ran into 3 outs on the bases in game 1, 2 of them at home plate. Absolutely. They teams know Clemson's going to be aggressive, and that's just – Eric Backus talked a little bit about that after one of the games. I think it was Saturday. That is their mindset. He said they're going to live by the sword, and they're going to live by the sword, die by the sword is what he said. And, it's a fun brand of baseball to watch, and I know probably people that have been older folks that have been watching baseball all their lives don't like to see guys run into outs on the bases. I don't know. I think it's an exciting brand of baseball. It's going to cost you sometimes. You got to be able to live with that. I think this brand of baseball that Clemson's playing right now, it's kind of made it fun to go back to Doug Kingsmore again. There is a different vibe at the ballpark the last 2 weekends they've had series at home, a vibe that I don't think I've felt there since before the COVID season, to be honest.
No, I feel exactly the same way, because you just don't know. And even if you're the opposing team, Clemson keeps you on edge. They're always putting pressure on the pitcher and the defense to make plays. I like that personally, because I think more times than not, it's going to work out for you on the offensive side when you're aggressive. You're going to force them to make a mistake. And we saw that against Louisville, where pass balls and wild pitches allowed runs to score. Well, why did that happen? Well, there's a guy on third base. They're nervous. Are they going to do a squeeze play on them? What's Clemson going to do? Are they going to charge the plate even if the ball's hit to the mound? All those things got a pitcher thinking, right? And when that happens, and you got a 4th-string catcher back there, it puts pressure on him. I thought Backus and his coaching staff did a great job of understanding the situation, putting constant pressure on the pitchers and that catcher, in that inexperienced catcher in that situation, and it worked more times than not, in my opinion. Even though it didn't work in the sense of, when they were charged to home plate and they get thrown out, it didn't work in that instance. But because they did those things, I think what allowed the pass balls and the wild pitches to happen. Am I right in thinking that?
I absolutely agree. I remember in game 1, Ben Blackwell got thrown out, at home plate. Infield was playing in. I think there was 1 out. He was going on contact. Ball hit to the first baseman. He's gunned down at home plate. Probably it wasn't even really all that close. But like you said, and you have to make the play every time. And more often than not, it's probably going to benefit you more often than it's going to cost you.
Absolutely. And it benefited Clemson in both those games. They got the wins, despite in those 2 games going to combine 3 for 23 in runners in scoring position. But then that set up yesterday's game 3 for Clemson as they went for the sweep. The Tigers got a 7-3 victory in that game. Again, a great pitching performance, I thought, by Caden Grice. Again, just continues to go out there. He didn't have his best stuff yesterday in the sense of he did give up some hits. They were Louisville, I thought, was doing really good with contact, and they were coming up and they had an approach that they were going to hit the first fastball they saw from him a lot of times. and they did. They made contact with it because if they got behind generally, because Cade likes to work to count. I mean, he's one of the – I've never seen a guy that loves to work to count on the mound as much as Caden Grice does, but he gets 3-2 almost all the time, it sounds like, when you're watching him pitch. But he's got a great out pitch. He comes to that fastball and gets himself out of it. So Louisville was jumping on it early, and so that allowed them to get on top of them early, get a couple runs. They got a run in the first, they got a run in the second. But then the play, right? JP, you know what play I'm talking about. Louisville's got runner in scoring. They got runner, I believe, in scoring position, and the ball is lined to him. They've got one out. The ball is lined to him. No, it's 2 outs, excuse me. The ball's lined to him, and he just makes didn't even phase him, just boom, and then takes it and then, drops it behind his back, like it was nothing. I'm one of the best plays I've ever seen. Bakich said after the game it was one of the best plays he's ever seen. And I think Billy Amick talked about the swag he had with it, which made it even better. Kind of fired him up. It turned the game, in my opinion. And then Clemson went on to get a 7-3 victory yesterday, led by Grice, who had those 11 strikeouts, a career high.
Yeah, if you'd have told me in the second or third inning that Grice was going to go that deep yesterday, I'm not sure I'd have believed it because he didn't, like you said, didn't look like he had his best stuff. I think Louisville had the leadoff guy on in the first 4 innings, if I'm remembering right.
Mm-hmm. Leadoff.
I'm with you. I think that was the play that kind of turned the game, gave Clemson momentum, and he did it so nonchalantly. He was just so cool about it. Didn't flinch. Just like, hey, here it is. I got it. Drops it on the mound behind his back. It was one of the best plays you will see a pitcher, not just a pitcher, any player make, to be quite honest. And I absolutely think it was a momentum changer for sure.
Yeah, it was just so hilarious because it's just like the ball is shot to him. Anytime a pitcher has a ball shot to him, they're like getting out of the way and stuff. He just reaches to his right and just snags it, like it was nothing, and it's just like, and then like takes it and just, okay, and then tosses it behind his back. Like you said, very nonchalant. The whole play was very nonchalant, where if that's me, I'm ducking and covering, what I'm saying? I think most pitchers are. He made it just look like it was a routine play at the mound.
And I can't, it looks like on the replay I saw today, it kind of looks like, when he's nonchalantly dropping that ball behind his back, he's kind of giving a look to the base runner there too, saying, that's it. That was your chance.
Yeah, good point. And they really didn't do anything after that. Quietly, because we were sitting there, I sit by the analytical guys at Clemson that are doing all the stuff up there for the team. And I leaned back and I said, guys, if he gets one more strikeout, he just sets a career high in strikeouts. He just beats last week's. And he looked over at me and they're like, he's got 9 strikeouts? I said, yeah, he has 9 strikeouts. And we all agreed that's the quietest 9 strikeouts I think I've ever witnessed. I mean, he just very smooth in how he did it yesterday and didn't have his best stuff, but still worked it. 7 hits, 3 runs, 2 were earned, 11 strikeouts, as I mentioned, and he had 2 balls. But, hey, again, Billy Amick, Will Taylor, first of all, give him credit, a home run to right field, kind of got the Tigers going. That was a 2-1 home run right after Cooper Ingle had a double. And then later on, Amick had a solo 433-foot bomb. I mean, only Seth Beer I've ever seen hit a ball further than he hit that one.
It left the stadium.
It literally left the stadium.
Hey, Will Taylor was 6 for 8 this weekend, 750 batting average. I did not realize he had that many hits until today. 4 RBIs. I mean, he was like a spark plug in that lineup all weekend long, just continuing to make things happen. He is really, really starting to heat up here down the stretch. You mentioned Riley Bertram earlier. He is really starting to heat up. Mm-hmm. I think he's a guy, if I'm not mistaken, he was batting under 200 at one point in the season. Now he's probably pushing 260. He has really been on fire lately. But yeah, there might not be nobody in that lineup as hot as Billy Amick right now. He is just mashing, and there's no other way to say it. He is just raking at the plate.
I mean, what's he played in 30 games? He's only played in 3. and his production. I think Backett said it yesterday that he went out there in that first weekend series he played in a few weeks back. I can't remember who it was against, and he crushed it. And Backett is like, it might have been Florida State, and Backett is like, okay, I don't care what we're doing. He is going to be out we're making sure he's in the lineup every day. And they've done that. He's the DH now. He also works as the first baseman when Caden's pitching. I think they found a niche for him and a role for him there. And, they knew he was a bat from what they saw in fall ball, that he was going to be a bat that they think they could count on. Kind of started off slow. But when they got him in the lineup and he started going, the kid's been lights out. I mean, he might be one of the best hitters, not just in the ACC, but around the country, because he's just killing it.
Yeah, I think it just kind of came down to them trying to find the right role for him, or I guess a better way to say it is for him to get that opportunity to play every day. And now that he's getting that opportunity and they found that right role for him, he is shining in that role, and there's no doubt about it.
All right, so with the win, Clemson with the sweep, Clemson moves to 31-17, 14-10 in the ACC. The Tigers are currently a half game back of second place Duke. They're tied with Miami for third place. Well, what does that mean, right? JP, what does that mean when I say all that? Well, it means seeding in the ACC tournament. So if you remember, there are 4 pods, right? And so there's 3 teams in each pod, and you play those 2 teams in your pod, and the winner of each pod goes on to the ACC semifinals. If you're Clemson and you're the top seed, now you have an advantage. So if you're one of those top 4 seeds, you have an advantage when it comes to trying to make it to the semifinal. Really, if you just win one game, you got a great chance to make it to the semis with just one win. So now you could still – it depends on who you lose to. If you lose to, let's say Clemson's the 3 seed and they lose to the 6 seed, then that could make it a little bit difficult to get there because of the seeding and the way it works. But if all 3 teams are 1-1, Clemson moves on to the semifinals. And so that's why it's a little different. So if you want to be one of those top 4 seeds, that's why it's a big deal right now that Clemson is tied for third with Miami for that third place spot in the standings, and they could get as high as second. Nobody's going to catch Wake Forest. I think Wake Forest has been clinched to number 1 seed overall in the ACC regular season championship. So with all that said, they play Virginia Tech. We mentioned Coastal Carolina earlier. That's going to be the midweek game on Wednesday. It's going to be a big game there in Conway. But the Tigers then are going to stay on the road and go to Blacksburg to play a Virginia Tech team that is playing good baseball right now. They're trying to make it into the ACC tournament. They're trying to get into the NCAA tournament. They're playing for a lot as well. It should be for a fun weekend of baseball and positioning in the ACC standings.
Yeah, it is crucial to get one of those top 4 seeds in the ACC tournament. No doubt about it. If you are the highest seed in your pod, you basically the only way you don't advance is if you go 0-2 pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
If you go 1-1 and everybody, assuming nobody goes 2-0, if you go 1-1, you're almost you're going to advance by virtue of the tiebreaker. So that does put you in a good spot, a lot to play for when it comes to seeding. And like you said, Virginia Tech's playing good baseball right now, and they're playing for a spot in the ACC tournament. We say it every week. This is a big series coming up. I'm going to say it again. Another big one coming up, and this one on the road. And this team has shown that they are very good on the road. 10-5, if I'm not mistaken, away from home.
That's correct. Yep.
I think this team, as good as they've been playing at home, I think they play a little bit better on the road. You get away from home, get away from distractions, no girlfriends around, none of that kind of stuff, man. And
you beat me to it. The girlfriends aren't around.
You play a little more freely. I don't know if that factors in or not. It's something fun to think about, but I just think this team plays a little bit, not much. I said it last week, just a little bit better on the road than they do at home, and I think that's a good thing. It bodes well for when you get into the postseason, and we'll see if they can keep it up in Blacksburg.
Now, Backett yesterday, he told us they're going to keep their head down, and they're not going to look up and look to see where they are in the ACC standings or look up and see what they have to do to get a regional. But you know what? Me and you can look up, and we're going to look up, because if Clemson wins this series this weekend, if they beat Coastal Carolina first, let's take care of what's there first, right? If they beat Coastal Carolina and then they go and win the series this weekend, I think they're going into that final week against USC Upstate and North Carolina, JP, not with the chance to host just a regional. I think they're putting themselves in position to do something more. Because if they can continue this momentum into the ACC tournament, then you're thinking they could get up to 36, 37 wins by the end of the season, regular season, that is. And then when you get up in that 40-win range, as you know, and you're sitting there and say you finish runner-up in the ACC tournament or you win the ACC tournament, which the way Clemson's playing, it wouldn't surprise me if they win the ACC tournament. I wouldn't be surprised, okay? Now, I'm looking ahead, and we got a lot of baseball, and it could go the other way. But, dude, if they continue to play the way they're playing, they could play their way into a national seed.
I believe that 100%. You know, we're sitting here talking about them playing their way into discussion of hosting. Now that we're here, now it's time, like you said, it's time to start talking about maybe playing their way into the talk of being a national seed. I think that is absolutely on the table. Depending on how they finish up, you know, you go to Coastal Carolina, you go to Virginia Tech, come back home for USC Upstate, North Carolina. If you can, you know, take care of Coastal and win those last two series and obviously take care of business against USC Upstate, I think you have no doubt put yourself at least in the discussion to be considered.
Yeah, you're 37, 38 wins at that point. You're going to be either second or third in the ACC. You're going to be a top 4 seed in your own conference tournament. You know, if you do well in your conference tournament, that will probably be the deciding factor, right? Like it was a few years back when they ended up getting that number 1 seed, I think, in Monty Lee's first year as head coach. They got that national seed, I should say, number 7 seed. Now, there's still a lot they got to do. They're 13th in the RPI, so they got to move their way up to get in that conversation. But I think they could be in the conversation, and that's really what we're talking about here. And it's going to be interesting to see these next 2 weeks how the season unfolds before they get into ACC tournament play. I hope it continues to keep going the way it's been going. I've enjoyed it. It's been a fun season. Like you mentioned, we haven't had this really since before COVID. Had a season where you got really this excited this late in the year about Clemson baseball. I know the fans are, and softball team's got their thing they're working on over there, and they got the ACC tournament this week, and a lot can happen for them as they're trying to get a regional site as well. But none of us thought baseball would be here. None of us, and probably the only people who thought they could be here are those people over in that dugout over there at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Other than that, nobody thought they'd be in this situation, and here they are with a chance to do something pretty special.
Yeah, I would have never guessed heading into the season, you know, before the season even started, month into the season, I didn't even have this team in the postseason, much less us sitting here talking about them hosting, possibly being a national seed. I mean, it was not even, you know, in the back of my mind. It has been an impressive turnaround over the last 5 weeks. One of the hottest teams in baseball, and they have been fun to watch.
Yes, they have. Well, Jason, appreciate you being with me, man, and talking baseball. Me and you spent the whole weekend together up at Doug Kingsmore Stadium, and so why not just add an extra day each week for us, right? So it's been a pleasure, my friend.
As always, man, I appreciate it.
All right, guys, and we appreciate all you guys watching and listening to us today. Please subscribe and like on YouTube and leave a comment. We greatly appreciate it. For Jason Priester, I'm Will Vandervort. We'll talk to you next time on the All Clemson Tigers Baseball Show.